Assalamualaikum. My name is Nushara Yohanis. Will be explain the concept and its relevant to NPM regarding with the topic chosen. It is privatization, now commonplace throughout the world. In 1980s, the privatization policy was launched and introduced to support the Malaysia's economic development. This policy is to lessen the financial and administrative burden of the government. It can relate with the new public management concept, which known as hands-on manager. Privatization policy is when one entity is given the power and authority to another entity. The next thing is about the symptom of the issues. The first symptom is increase in public sector's expenditure and debt over gross domestic product, or known as GDP. As government intervention in the economy increases, the size and the scope of the public sector grew, which led to a corresponding increase in the public sector's expenditure and debt over gross domestic product. As a result, the privatization policy is desperately needed and capable of addressing the country's spending and debt problems. For the second symptom is poverty. It is important to overcome the poverty crisis in the country to ensure the society lives in a better surrounding. Poverty usually is the income level from employment is low that the basic human needs cannot be met. The government implements the privatization policy is to achieve several things. For instance, providing infrastructure facilities, provide employment opportunities, and many more. That's it from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Atina Azhani and I will proceed with the causes or factors of the surrounding issues. The first factor of privatization policy is government feels burdened with the financial and administrative management. Throughout the post-independence period, the government spent a lot of money on transportation, communication, energy, public utilities and various development programs. The government's determination to provide appropriate resources for a wide number of development programs in order to achieve rapid economic growth created a huge financial burden on its resources, which makes it hard for the government to overcome the financial constraint that they face on their own. All of this development required the government to find ways on how to improve their financial, and this is when privatization became an option, as it could be one of the most effective to help government in a lot of ways. Privatization is considered as a successful solution since the private sector is expected to be more efficient and progressive than the governmental sector.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Rehana binti Rusni and I will be continuing for causes or factors of the surrounding issues. My point is no employment opportunities. The number of societies live in Malaysia from year to year increasing. Thus, if the government sector is the only one corporate carrier, it is not enough for all. It may cause an increase in the number of people who live in poverty. By having privatization, it will provide employment opportunities in the private sector apart from producing a professional workforce, especially amongst the Bumi Putra. It will help more society and eventually will stabilize the economy of the country. Malaysia's economic status was not in a good condition as the public sector grew, which led to a corresponding increase in public sector's expenditure as well as debt. Malaysia's economic growth rate fell dramatically from 6.3% in 1983 to 1.1% in 1985, owing to unusually high expenditures and debt resulting from the expansion of the public sector, as well as a global economic slump in the early 1980s. This shows that before the government decided to establish a privatization policy, there are no other job opportunities as the government focus on developing all those public sectors and it makes them affected with debt and high expenditure.
The next part is effect or implication of such issues prolonged. Management and financial system of the country are not conducive to produce efficient operations because the government uses a traditional management system. Management and financial system are important in the government as it determines how the people see the government as a whole. One of the reasons that make the management and financial system of the country are not conducive is due to lack of potential employees with the right expertise and employability skills, including transferability skills. This is due to low salary for the graduates, which will make them hesitate to work for the organisation as the cost of living in the country is high. Thus, to strengthen the government's management and financial activities, it is important to use a privatization policy that works together with professional figures, since the private sector might have more professionals. The private sector will help the government in the management and financial system to be better and on a good path. Privatization has been acknowledged as one of the main contributors that lead to economic development and international trade improvement.
I will continue for the next point, which is market failure. Due to the deterioration of the economy in Malaysia, most other developed countries are not interested in doing investment. This shows that market failure happens. This is because the government production is not effective, which causes more national debts. Thus, it is important to have a strong program and great system. The best programs that can change the statistic of the chart GDP will have a great competitive global marketplace. It also can allow a huge number of international businesses, which leads to an increase in foreign direct investment in. Next, privatization is likely to increase profit streams for privatized firms while lowering the government's debt load associated with their operation. Furthermore, the government can capitalize the profit and generate immediate cash through tax and dividend payments. It is often assumed that by transferring public and government ownership to the private sector will be more motivated to earn income and create jobs, hence contributing to GDP growth. Thus, it is a good decision to establish this privatization policy, and it can help the government to stabilize the economy.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Mazatul Atila, and now I'll be explaining on the ways of how the issue has been addressed. First point is focusing on economic goals by addressing the issue on national debt of the country. When the economy is in a state of instability, it will require an external sources for a public sector funds and cost increase of government debt. Sometimes when the government had expended more, this occurs debt with the nation. In order to prevent the issue on national debt, the initiative of privatization policy would help the government to control the national debt in terms of external and internal sources. Somehow, government funds came from external sources, and this led to the increase of funds and debt. Thus, privatization policy is effective program for managing government's debt. And second point is in terms of restructuring the economy. Restructuring is a method of reorganizing the organization problem in terms of financial and operational system. For example, the emergence of debt issues. Thus, restructuring process can be applied in order to modify the problem. To elaborate more on this, privatization policy contributed in restructuring the economy through its role as profit orientation. With the profit earned, could help the government getting much revenue in order to enhance the government development plan or finance, and this reduce the government financial issue. Other than that, privatization encourage more global market competitiveness. It enables the increase in foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment allows the organization to invest more in foreign countries and increase income for locals. Therefore, privatization policy is important for the inflows of foreign direct investment and enable positive development in financial market. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nur Hazwani binti Abu Bakar, and I am going to present about the recommendation. The first recommendation is to create an effective management program. In most countries, government activities have been focused only on environmental factors in the transfer of ownership. The government should establish a program to ensure that the management taken over by the private sector is better in implementing the privatization policy. For example, the Interdepartmental Action Program for Privatization. There are various activities that can be done through this program, such as providing management, researching, and advising on work best practices, including creating and researching on the most effective methods in managing privatization policy. The second recommendation is to generate employment opportunities. To reduce this issue from happening, it is important to identify the main factors that cause problems for the poor. The main factor is that they have low incomes. To reduce poverty, the government needs to provide productive employment opportunities as well as training for them. especially to those who cannot afford it and live in rural areas who do not have the opportunity to pursue higher education. Job matching and placement service programs can help to make the labor market more efficient, in turn increase the employment opportunities. For example, the government can establish a launch of Skills Future that has also been made by Singapore to reduce the employment rate in their country. It aims to align its education with the needs of the industry. Individuals that will focus in applied learning that allows them to acquire skills relevant to industry needs before joining the workforce.